Hey guys, my name is Kevin Scoggin and I am a real estate team leader here in Central Oklahoma. And on today's video, we're going to be talking about something that I think is incredibly important for us to understand if we're going to continue to succeed in real estate at a high level over the next 6 to 12 months. Reality is, real estate market is crazy right now. Thousands of real estate agents have left the industry this year. Interest rates are up, days on market are up. Inventory is down. Nobody knows what's going to happen, right? And it's tough. And I recently sat down with a high performance coach named Santiago, and he and I dialogued about what is it going to take for us to continue to succeed at a high level over the next 6 to 12 months. And what he unpacked for me was profound. In fact, it's a topic that I don't think is talked about enough in real estate sales. So buckle up, get ready to take some notes. I promise you that this conversation is going to add a ton of value to your real estate business. But before we get into that conversation, as always, if this video is adding value to your business, do me a favor, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you would, perhaps even share it on your social media or tag a friend who you know needs to hear this message. Christian, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, super grateful to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Well, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we begin by you telling our viewers and our listeners just a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yes, my name is Santiago. I'm a peak performance coach, CEO of the Greatness Institute, which is a peak performance coaching company that helps high-level achievers hit elite performance and be able to do that in 90 days without adding more to their schedule. And so I've been grateful to have worked with people from all around different industries, whether they're a major news anchor or if they are an executive or a president of a company, whether they're a trauma surgeon. And so basically, if you put in a lot of hours and you have to get a lot of growth, I'm probably the guy that we need to be working with. And so me and my company has been incredible where we've been able to, I've started it 2 years ago out of a place of pain, which I don't mind sharing the story during it, but start off as a place of pain to now 2 years later, that pain has turned into, you can say prosperity, it's turned into power, it's turned into influence, it's turned into just massive impact, being able to work with the billion-dollar companies I get to work with now. And so super grateful.
Amazing, bro. Well, I'm excited to have you on here today for a lot of reasons. One of which is that you're not a real estate agent. And I feel like most of the people I have on here are real estate agents, which is great. But I also think if there's one industry right now, I mean, don't get me wrong, I realize every industry, they want to perform at their peak. But with what is going on in the real estate industry, with where interest rates are at, thousands upon thousands of agents have left the industry this year in our nation. Agents need help. We need help. We need to know how to be performing at our peak. And so I'm excited to get into your brain and I know provide a ton of value to the agents that are going to watch this.
Well, I'm excited. I know at the end of this, I hope you get fired up, but also you have some practical, tactical things that you can actually apply for tomorrow.
Awesome. I love it, man. Yeah. One of the things, Christian, that I think is so interesting to me about real estate, and this is true, I think, of all selling professions where it's a commission-based situation, you know, you have this interesting reality where you have some agents that no matter the market, they're making 6 figures, they're making 7 figures. And then you have agents in the same market, access to the same properties, the same 24 hours in a day, right?
Yep.
Who struggle to put food on the table. And so I wanted to kind of throw that out there as a jumping off point of what do you feel like the difference is between those agents, and how do we get the agents that are struggling in today's market out of that place of struggle to a place of more consistent income?
Yes. Well, one of the things I will say first before I answer that question is being in a commission-based, commission only, I will tell you, is for gladiators. You know,
I love it.
So I actually have massive respect for those who do that. I mean, in reality, if you're starting a business in general, you're only basically paid on commission anyway, like for what you actually produce.
Yes.
And so whether you produce or not. And so real estate agents, especially with the volatility of everything, you can easily be duped when the market is great that you're better than you think you are, you know? And then when it crashes, that is like, God. But it's also a thing of like, you also don't want to believe that you're worse than you think you are either. So one of the things as far as it's like I've seen the difference in any industry as far as those who perform well, those who doesn't, but those who don't, is two things. And they're two S's. First S is state. For some reason, those who are absolutely operate at their best, they literally perform no matter what the circumstances, conditions are. It's because of their state, their mental, emotional, or physical state. They are operating at least an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, or 10 out of 10. Because ultimately, no matter what market, what is going on, one of the best things that's going to help you interpret everything is going to be your state. Your state determines whether something is a stumbling block or a stepping stone, even if it's the same thing.
That's good.
Your state literally determines whether you're going to actualize your full potential for that day, or you're going to pull back and believe some limiting beliefs. So number one, state. I mean, even as simple as exercising in your morning, studies have shown that it puts you in a more positive frame of mind for 12 hours. So, which is why I encourage people want to exercise at night. It helps them relax. Yeah, that's why you still don't wake up as excited or joyful, because if you're sleeping for 6 to 7, 8 hours, you only got 3 hours left of that effect, really hitting, versus if you do it in your morning, it lasts for 12 hours. So people who literally prioritize state operate at their best. I mean, think about this. If I ask people, what's the quality of your marriage if you both are operating at a 6 out of 10 state? What's the quality of it? Is it good or bad? Is it
Probably not great.
Probably not great. It's like
Yeah.
But now if you both are at a 10 out of 10 state, high energy, high joy, high excitement, high playfulness, everything from the dates to the intimacy to everything, all of a sudden it's great. Boom. How life-giving is that marriage?
Night and day.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Same thing in business. If you operate at 10 out of 10 state, like today, I'm going to crush it. I don't care what's going on. I don't care what happened yesterday. I don't care who is slacking. I don't care if these people did not respond to me and I've texted them 8 times in the past 3 days. I don't care if they've ghosted me. Guess what? I'm at a 10 out of 10 state. Are you going to have reluctance on calling them if you're at a 10 out of 10? No, you're like, I don't even care whatever they tell me. I am dealing with whatever. And so state above all. I mean, think about it. If you're at a 4 out of 10 state, what kind of results will you produce?
Yeah, not good ones.
Not good ones. But here's the question. Do you want to date a 4?
No.
Do you want to go into business with a 4?
No.
No. You want to go into business with an A player. 9 out of 10. 10 out of 10. So state matters above everything. State almost is like the cure-all for everything. It doesn't matter if you're doing surgery. It doesn't matter if you're doing a presentation. It doesn't matter if you're showing 10 houses in a day. Like literally state matters. If you're a 10 out of 10 state, if someone's like, you show them 10 houses in a day and they don't like any of them, you're going to be more creative. You're not going to be like, these people are annoying me. You're just going to be like, okay, what's next? High level. It's also easier to influence people at a high level state too. Because if you're in a selling, it's not, if we trade even the word selling for influence industry, even just the change of the label can be like, okay, let me ask you, who's going to have more influence over someone, a 10 out of 10 state or a 6 out of 10 state? Who's going to have more influence in the situation?
10 out of 10.
The 10 out of 10. That person who's a 10 is going to influence the other person. And so realize that you're in an influence industry, not just a selling industry, because selling is just influence, because nothing ever moves forward unless someone's influenced. And so if you are at a high state, then guess what? You're going to influence somebody. I mean, have you guys ever heard a podcast where the person's like, I'm here to tell you about how to live a legendary life. Like they're gonna be like, you're gonna be like, no, you're not. Like, what are you like? I'm not gonna listen to you. I don't know who you are. You're boring. Okay. But then you have those people that are like, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I feel like I can run through a wall. What state were they in?
10 out of 10.
They're at 10 out of 10. They're 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. So a big difference is state. Second thing is system. Every person who is at their high level has a system in what they do. They are not an amateur anymore. They're a professional. So they show up and they work the system whether they feel like it or not. It's much easier to feel like it when you're operating at a 10 out of 10 state. But even if you're at a 6 out of 10 state with a 9 out of 10 system, ultimately, you know exactly what your inputs and outputs are.
So good.
Every day you're doing it over and over and over again. And people say, oh, you're doing the basics. I hate the word basics. I think all the clients that I work with hate the word basics. I ask every single, do you like the word basics or do you like the word fundamentals? It could be the same thing. They're like, I like fundamentals better. Oh, I like fundamentals better. I like exactly. Because people who are focused on mastery never stop doing the fundamentals. They hate basics. They love the fundamentals. And so what's the system in place that you're doing over and over and over and over and over again? I was told by even a coach when I first started ever my coaching business, they said, Christian, you have way more skill than I do as a coach. The reason why I'm making 3 times more than you in your business is because I actually have a system and you don't.
Wow.
They're like, Christian, you're way better than me as a coach, but I'll make it 3 times more because I have a system and you don't. Is that once you catch your system, you're going to blow my business out the water.
So good.
And at that moment, I was like, I need to get a system. Okay. I'm going to work the system. And when you work the system at a 10 out of 10 state or 9 out of 10 state, and guess what? That changes a lot. Like, here's the crazy part. I've seen a lot of, even when I talk about state, and I'm going to get like real practical and it might be like a little bit offensive, but guys, I just like all change begins by telling ourselves the truth. All change begins by telling ourselves the truth. I've seen too many real estate agents that are overweight and they're wondering why they struggle with motivation. They're not in shape. How can you operate at a 10 out of 10 state if you don't have 10 out of 10 energy?
It's good, man.
Like, so it's like, get in the gym. Get right. Like if you want to take your business seriously, you want your clients to take you seriously, you got to take yourself seriously. And even one of the areas of influence is likability. One of the triggers of influence is likability. And it's interesting. People buy more from people that they like. And what includes and increases likability is actually how you look.
Wow.
It's actually how you look. Human beings, we might hate it. We might be like, no, that's superficial. That's fine. You can fight against human nature or you can use human nature.
Wow.
So let's use human nature as a reason to actually get ourselves in shape, which every single person who's not in shape actually wants to say, would you rather be more in shape or would you rather be where you're at now? Everybody would rather be more in shape, okay?
Right. And
so that's actually a simple thing for you to actually increase in influence, but also increase in energy, which then affect your state because also too, you'll be more confident too. And when you're confidence is a certain level of state. Resolve is a state. Congruence is a state. Clarity is a state. Confusion is a state. Insecurity is a state, okay? And so states matter more than everything else. And you know, it's so interesting, like the people who are operating at the highest level of states, even if they don't have the right strategy or system, they figure it out. As soon as I was told I don't have a system, even though I was a 10 out of 10 state, I didn't take it as this, oh, I suck, I worry. I'm like, great, well, I'm going to go find it. And I went and used the state that I was in to go find the answers because when you're committed to something, that's when you falter. And that has to do with a state of absolute resolve and confidence, unshakable courage. That's a state. And so those are huge differences.
Yeah, man, I love what you said about systems. So one of the agents on my team the other day had a buyer presentation with a gentleman who's a cash buyer, $750,000. The lead, which is a big price point in my market, the lead came through Facebook, which is generally considered the worst type of lead. And what made the difference was the system that we have in place. We have a 24/7 call system. When a lead comes through, they're being called, texted, and emailed within 5 minutes. And that's what made the difference, right? We were the first people to talk to him. And so for those of you watching and listening to this, I hope you're taking notes on what Christian's saying. I think systems have been a game changer even in my business over the years, where it's so true. It's not even necessarily that we're the best agents in the market. I mean, I hope we are, right? But we had the system in place to get to him first before any other agent in the market did.
And the systems connect to a standard. To a standard. What's the standard in your business? What's the standard? Like, don't talk to me about goals. I want to hear what are your standards. Because ultimately, you know, my state, why do some people operate at a better state than others? Because they made it a standard. That's why. Like I don't allow crap to stay inside of me for more than 2 hours. I don't. Like, guess what? Like, if you're in business, it's a gladiator sport. Things happen, things fall through the crack. That's also life as well. But in order for me to operate at my peak and have my clients operate at their peak, we make it a standard for our peak state to be a standard. We make the system to be a standard. If this is the level, I'm no longer being an amateur anymore. I'm going to be the best of the best. What is the systems that they implement? Because that's my standard now. Because it's not just what you want, it's what do you tolerate?
It's good, man.
What do you tolerate?
It's really good. And I think, in real estate, like anyone can get the real estate license, but to your point, it's like you can tell the difference between an agent who views themselves as a professional versus the agent that, they're dressed a little bit sloppy. Maybe they're late to the showing.
Yes.
Maybe they're late to the office. They don't return the voice. Like there's a massive difference, right? In the professional and the amateur, but it's a decision, right? It's a standard is what you're saying.
Yep. And I would say that standard also comes from vision as well. So who are you actually seeking to become? One of the things I do with all my clients is I help them create a peak identity statement, which is simply what do you want to be the best in the world at? And it might take you 20 years, but that's fine. At least you have something that's pushing you towards that. And we're going to operate from that person, not towards it. We're going to operate from that person. What are that person's beliefs? What is that person's character traits? What is that person's habits? What are that person's, what do they focus on and what don't they? What are the skills does that person master? And we have them decide that. And then we create a peak filter question for them. Like, for example, for me, it's like, well, I want to be the number one peak performance coach in the world. Okay, cool. The peak filter question is, will this help me become the number one peak performance coach in the world? Yes or no? If it's a yes, I'm doing it and I'm going to figure it out no matter how hard it is, whatever is presented before me. Because it's like, oh, I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough this, or I figure it out. Because if it's a yes, then I'm going to figure it out. If it's a no, then I decline gracefully. And if it's a maybe, I still decline gracefully. And I use that maybe as a signal or a tool that I need to invest more time into this. Because every maybe that's a shiny object for some people should be a no. Because if it's not a yes, if it's a no or a maybe, it's a no.
No such thing as maybe is what you're saying.
Yeah, no such thing. If I gotta say maybe, then it's a no.
Yeah.
Because if it's not going to help me on my future, you've got to eliminate ruthlessly. And a lot of people don't want to do that, but that's okay. That's why only certain people get the results that they get, because they're willing to not be like everybody else.
So good.
That's okay. But it starts with vision. The only way you can have standards is if you have vision. Who are you looking to become?
Good,
so
yeah,
peak identity statement, then create a peak filter question. And I filter those things through like my 5, like what are the opportunities? Do I filter that question through? Will this opportunity help me become the number one peak performance coach in the world? Yes or no? Or will this help me build a $100 million company? Yes or no? Second thing is I do it through my growth, my books or podcasts, people I listen to, through the mentors I have, through the relationships I have, through the habits or hobbies. I don't really no offense, but I think hobbies are overrated. And that's just Chris Santiago. That's just me. I'm like, will this help me become the number one peak performance coach in the world? Yes or no? Will this help me build a $100 million coaching business? Yes or no? And my life is simple because of it. It's so crazy. Peak performance is actually very simple. It's actually not complex. It's just compounding in one direction over a long period of time more than most people are willing to do.
That's good, man. That's really good. And I think for the real estate agents, I think we're in a market where you have to be ruthless, right? Like what you're saying, like a year ago, 2 years ago, it was easy to sell houses, right? You could throw a sign in the yard and you'd have multiple offers, but that it's no more. That is not reality, right? And so I love what you're saying of that ruthlessness. For me, it's ruthless commitment to my calendar. Okay, I'm supposed to be making prospecting calls right now. I'm supposed to be recruiting agents right now, like whatever the thing is. And I love what you say where it's like, it brings clarity and simplicity, right? I'm like, oh, this is what my calendar is telling me to do. That's what I'm going to do, right? Because I'm committed to that. And so I love that. And I think, I just think agents, if you're listening to this, you have to be ruthless if you want to weather the current storm that we're in. So
Right. And even to this point too, of what you're saying about the schedule, when you go, the best performers I know, when they go on the schedule, okay, they could have 10 different things on their schedule. But when they're in that first thing, they're not thinking about the other 9. They are focusing on that one thing. They literally channel their focus on that one thing. So, the real estate agents who have high motivation one day, then low motivation the other. It's because oftentimes when they're doing something, they're probably thinking about all the other things that they're missing out on or they're not doing, rather than focusing on the one thing that's in front of them. And you want to talk about giving your mind the ability to break down really fast, give it more than one thing to focus on at once. They say if you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none.
Right. So
if
good.
you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none. And so with my clients, I'm like, no, we're going to focus on this one thing. That other thing is still going to be there. Trust me, it's still going to be there. But you're not going to do this one thing well if you're not focused on the one thing. If you're making calls, then that's all you're focused on is calls. You're not thinking about the other things. You think about those things once that's done.
100%. Yes. Yep. So important. Christian, I'd love to pick your brain a little bit on self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors. I think this is one of, and this is me speaking, in my own life, that's been one of the harder things for me to do. Is it's not so hard for me to identify maybe so much, but it's hard for me to okay, now that we have the self-sabotaging belief behavior identified, how do we move past it, right? How do we grow beyond it? And again, I think that's a big make or break for a lot of agents in the industry, coming down to, hey, what are those self-sabotaging beliefs? How are they showing up in your real estate business? So I'd love for you to maybe speak to that a little bit, and if you have any practical suggestions for how to move through those.
Yes. So first thing is, I'll go back to my first S I talked about, which is state. So most of the times we have crappy stories when we're in a crappy state. The biggest limiting beliefs usually come either when we're tired or we just got something that didn't go through as well and it drops our state. Instead of having a state of flexibility, it's I remember my first ever offer I gave to somebody that was a 6-figure coaching package kind of thing. And it got, turned down. And it was at first it was filled with lots of pain. I'm oh man, it didn't work out. Can't believe it. In that moment, when my state dropped, guess what? Limiting beliefs started to come up in my story. And you know what I did? Instead of allowing it to sit, I had to interrupt my state first for my story to improve. Most people just accept the states that are given to them rather than interrupting them. And you can interrupt them in 2 ways. One, you can move your body. And at that time, I was you can do something with your body, either do a lot of deep breathing. When you do a lot of deep breathing, you take a lot of 5 deep breaths and you hold for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds. It actually releases a lot of the negative emotions because it oxygenates your nervous system. But second thing, sometimes getting up and going for a walk changes how you feel. Then you can review that same situation in a different way. Think about it in a more practical way in relationships. Have you ever had an argument with somebody and instead of that, you're you know what, I'm going to go for a walk. And you go for a walk or you go for a drive or you change the scenery. All of a sudden, you feel differently about the situation. When you feel differently, then you think differently about it. And so oftentimes we allow limiting beliefs to stay in our minds without interrupting it. So we don't, you can either interrupt it with your body. You can do breath work or move around or whatever. Some people go exercise. Some people, totally fine. But staying in a high state. Second thing is you interrupt it by questioning it. Okay. Most people do not question their limiting beliefs. It's so interesting when I talk with people about, I do a process called emotional home breakthrough with my clients. Anybody who signs on within the first 2 weeks are doing something called an emotional home breakthrough, which is basically they choose one negative emotion that holds them back from operating at their best, and we eliminate it from their life for good. I recently just had a person who struggled with a lot of anxiety. CEO of a $50 million company, struggled with anxiety. Guess what? In 2.5 hours, we did a breakthrough for him. It's been 2 weeks since then. He has his Whoop and he's been tracking, he can kind of put on journal, do you have anxiety or not? He's told me for the past 10 days, he said no every single time. It's been great. But one of the things that we do to actually interrupt those states, because every story we have is produced by a negative state.
Every story we have. Okay.
Is produced by a negative state. If you're in a state of insecurity, what kind of stories are you going to create in your head?
Insecure stories.
Insecure stories. If you have a low energy state, are you going to create stories in your head of breaking records this month if you're in a low energy state?
No way.
How productive are you going to be if you're in a low energy state? You not very. You're going to take a nap. So for him, one of the things that oftentimes we don't do is either we're not in a peak state or we don't question our stories. We don't question our beliefs. So for example, it's oftentimes with the emotions that we carry on, whatever limiting beliefs we have, we never ask ourselves, is that really true? Is there evidence that actually supports the opposite? Because the beliefs that are stressful that we believe are the ones that affect us the most. The ones that we believe are the ones that we affect us the most. And the ones that we believe are the ones that we never question. And as soon as you put your limiting beliefs under a microscope and it's is that really true? All of a sudden there's a crack in the foundation of that belief that then things change. It's okay, I'm not going to be successful. Is that really true? Let's look at your past. Let's look at all the qualities you've exhibited. Ever in your life, you've never exhibited any quality that would ever contribute to success ever. Let's ask that. Ever. Oh my gosh, I have. I did it for a 1 year period. Oh my gosh. Okay. So if you can do it for 1 year, can't you do it for 2? Can't you do it for 3? Can't you do it for 4? Oh my gosh. So you do have some of the ingredients for success. Oh wait, are you sure that belief is true that you never could be successful? Just because we question the belief. You know, it's like, oh, I'll never be successful because I've never had family members who are that. Oh, is that really true? Like, is there anybody ever in the world who can never be successful because their entire family was never successful? Is there anyone ever who's ever existed like that? Oh, so that's not really true. So all of a sudden, the beliefs we don't question are the ones that hurt us the most. And oftentimes those limiting beliefs stay in our lives because we never question them. And so I usually go through a simple question framework. So first question is that really true? Is that all the information that is available to me? Question one. I have to first question the validity of it. Then once I see it's actually not true, then I ask myself, who do I become because I believe that? Who do I end up becoming because I believe that? That hurts. Because I was like, oh my gosh, I turned into this kind of person, or I turned into that kind of person. Do I want to keep living like this, or have I had enough? As soon as I ask those 3 questions, I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. Now, what's the empowering truth, and what are 3 examples I can create for that? 3 examples I can create for that that show that it's true.
So
and like
good,
for someone, oh, I've never been successful. Okay, is that really true? Is that you've never been successful ever in your life? I mean, you graduated high school. I mean, that's pretty successful. I mean, you graduated college, or you did this, or you did that. I mean, even you being here without like you being an entrepreneur, you being a real estate. Oh my gosh, you still being here with how many real estate agents who probably quit last year? You still being here. Are you sure? Are you sure? Is that really true? And so I would say those 2 things. Number one, you're in a low state. Every negative state will produce a negative story. If I'm feeling crappy, the first thing I don't change is I don't try to change my mindset. I try to change my state. I'm like, okay, I've been sitting on the couch for 3 hours. I need to get up. It's like, no, I need to get off social media because that doesn't affect my state. It does not help me. Okay, I just need to go get some calls in. Boom, changes my state. Boom. Or second thing, I question the actual belief, because the beliefs we don't question are the ones that harm us the most.
So good, man. I mean, both of those are really powerful. The one that jumps out to me the most is questioning, because I think so often we get in like autopilot mode and we just accept our thoughts. My wife and I were literally talking about this last night. We just accept our thoughts as truth, right? And I love what you're saying of like, okay, hold up. Is this true? Right? Like, and actually questioning that. And I just think that's really powerful. And I know that's what hit me the most. I think state is powerful. I think that's a growth point for me for sure. But I love that idea of, okay, hold on. Is this really true? Like, let's unpack this a little bit. So I think that's really powerful.
And it's tough to question it if you're in a low state too. If you are at a 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10 state, it's tough to actually have enough power to question a belief and break through it, because breakthrough is a high value result. Every high value result requires high energy states. Like wealth is a high value result. Do you think wealth just flows to low energy people? Like people are like, can't even get up out of bed? No, it's like people are in a high state. Like people that I talk to that are high level, even if they're not in the best of shape, but they're still high energy people. Like when they talk fast, or when they talk, they like talk with a sense of authority. And it's like, boom, they're like trying to make you feel what they're saying. It's like, it's a difference, a very big difference. And so that's why even before any client goes through an emotional breakthrough, I say 90 minutes, they have to make a decision to exercise or drink black coffee, not with all the extra stuff in it. Drink black coffee at least 90 minutes before emotional home breakthrough, because I need them to be in a high energy state in order for them to have breakthrough from this forever. We're literally talking about eliminating a negative emotion from someone's life forever. I did this with anxiety. I've done this with people who struggle with depression, people who struggle with suicide, people who struggle with rage, like people who struggle with insecurity. We've been able to get rid of it, but it's because they're in a high energy state. Breakthrough is a high value result that only comes from a high energy states.
It's really good, man. And it also makes me think about, like, you've hit on state multiple times in our conversation. And I think that's really important, because I think it's easy to not fully connect the dots. And what I mean by this is agents thinking that what they do at night or what they do in the morning isn't affecting their real estate business. But the better question to ask is, but is it affecting my state? Is staying up till midnight, binging on Netflix, is it affecting my state? If it's affecting my state, then by default, it is affecting your real estate business, right?
Yes.
Is eating crap food all the time, oh, that doesn't, it's how I, enjoy or whatever. Okay. But if it's affecting your state, then by default, it's affecting your business. And I think that's a really, I love that you're kind of connecting those dots for people, because I think we tend to live compartmentalized, right? Well, this is what I do on the weekend. This is what I do at night. This is what I do in the morning or whatever. And so what I'm hearing you say, and what I want to challenge those listening is, how are you setting yourself up to be in a peak state, right? Like for me, I get up, I have my devotional time, I work out every single day. Those things set me up. And at times I still struggle with the bad state, right? I think that's reality, right? But I'm I'm very intentional.
But they're easier to handle at a high level state.
Yeah. So it's really good. I just, thinking about like, how can we help these real estate agents? I think like connecting dots for them of like, hey, maybe considering some of these habits that you haven't really thought about. How is that? Like you said, scrolling social media. I almost always feel anxious after I scroll social media, right? Like the world's ending, artificial intelligence is taking over, and now I'm freaked out about it, right? I'm like, well, I just shouldn't have been scrolling,
Right. And then in that state, how much more are you going to execute compared to if you weren't even on it and you were at a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, and you didn't even know it existed and you're still going?
Yeah.
It's a big difference. And even in the area of influence, because we said we're not in a selling industry, think of it like an influence industry. Okay. Whenever there's rapport built, okay, the greatest gift in influence that any of my clients, I'm like, what's the number one gift in influence? They say state. Because I can teach someone all the right things to say, but if they don't deliver it in the proper way, it doesn't matter. And the only way you can deliver it the right way is in a great state. Because after rapport is built with somebody, whoever state is most congruent with their belief will influence the other. So that means if someone's a 10 out of 10 state in their unbelief that you're the best person for them, and you're only at a 7 out of 10 in your state that you can help them, their unbelief is going to affect your belief. But then if you're at a 10 out of 10 state of belief, like I am the best person you're ever even going to work with, you shouldn't even consider anybody else. Boom, it doesn't even matter. They could have been a 6 out of 10. They're like, oh, I think I should work with this person. Like, this is the guy for me. He knows what he's doing.
That's good, man.
When rapport is built, whoever has the most conviction will influence the other person.
So good.
And that can only happen by state. And in state, sometimes the greatest strategies come out of you. I mean, in state, sometimes you ask the questions at the perfect time and you didn't even realize it. I've been in some coaching sessions sometimes and I'm in such a high state. I ask a question and after I ask them, they're like, wow. And in my head, I'm like, wow, I need to write that question down. I didn't have that prepared. It's like, it was like, oh, there was something that just flowed through me because you're in a high level state. It's like when you meet somebody who, like real estate agents, hey, guess what? First touch, boom. So if you're at a 10 out of 10 state, first impression, doesn't even matter. Calling them, boom, you're at a 10 out of 10 state, you're ready. All of a sudden, the script just flowed endlessly, perfectly through you because you're at a state, at a high level state. And so even on state affects influence. State affects influence more than we even realize. You want to influence more people? Get in a greater level of state, because after rapport is built, whoever has the most conviction wins. And conviction is a state. They're either going to have conviction in their unbelief or you're going to have conviction in your belief that you're the one who's going to deliver the solution.
So good, man. I mean, I think if everyone watching this literally just started working on their state and their systems in their business, I'm like, I mean, that's a game changer.
We've done our job.
Right? That's a game changer right there. Are there any other, I mean, again, you've shared a ton of practical, is there maybe one or two other just practical things that you could share that would help real estate agents improve their performance today? Anything come to mind?
Yes. Well, another thing on state is clarity. You want to have a level of clarity here. Let me ask you guys this. It's most leaders, it doesn't even matter what industry they're in, they usually operate on to-dos. To-dos are super antiquated. I really tell people, what is a success list? What's the 3 things that if this were to happen today would make today actually feel like a success? Okay, yes, you're going to work the system, but also what are 3 things that literally were to happen were to feel like a success? The reason why I told them feel like a success is because oftentimes if we use that anchor of emotions, what's going to feel like a success, we almost know exactly what we need to do to grow anything. It's like, what would be the right thing that would be no, what would feel like a success? Like after you get off the call with this one person and it closes, you like want to yell at the top of your lungs. You know that's a success because it moved the needle forward. You just know it. And so trade a to-do list for a success list and choose 3 things as far as successes go that you're going to focus on that will absolutely get you amplified, because 3 emotions, they've done studies on this, those who step into peak performance, 3 emotions that people experience when they operate in flow is joy, confidence, and fully present in the moment. Joy, confidence, and fully present in the moment. And if you solely focus on something that actually feels like a success, how much more joyful and confident and fully present in the moment will you be?
Yeah, it's a game changer.
You're like, this one call will literally change everything. How much more would you be fully present in the moment rather than thinking somewhere else? How much more prepped would you be for that call if it was actually on your success list? And you'd be more confident because you're more competent since you prepared a lot more. And confidence is a state. And how much more excited would you be when you're thinking about the end of it? Like end of it when you hang up the phone and all of a sudden it's exactly what you wanted.
So good.
And so I would say trade your to-do list for a success list, and also trade your to-do list for a not to-do list. What are you no longer doing? Because I don't need to add a bunch of great things in your life. Sometimes for some of us to step up to a world-class level, we just need to cut off the mediocre things that are in our life. And as a result, we will move up.
Wow.
And so we need to have a not to-do list. What are you not doing? What are the standards, the mediocre standards you're no longer accepting anymore? And that begins with vision, because why would you cut off mediocre standards? How would you know it's mediocre if you didn't have a vision to compare it to? Like, how would you know? I mean, it's perfect for your current reality now.
Right.
But how would you know it's mediocre? What are you comparing it to? Unless you're comparing it to a vision of what you could become at the highest level, the best in the world at, to then you're like, oh, it's mediocre in comparison to that. Time to cut it off. And so that's what I would give. Success list and a not to-do list.
So good, man. That's something that you can do tomorrow. Like literally, you sit down tomorrow to work. I love that. It's really good. I'll confess, Christian, I still use to-do lists myself at times. So I'm gonna have to make the switch for sure.
I love it. Literally, I'm on a success list. Like today, I already got 2 out of 3 at the time of this interview. Like 2 out of 3 done already. I felt like I could run through a wall. It was because it was exactly what I wanted.
So good, man. I love that. A couple more questions for you. What if you could go back to the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey and I know you said you started your coaching company 2 years ago, so you're 2 years into this process. I know you did some stuff before that, but what would be one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you could kind of go back in time with the experience and perspective you have now?
So I would tell myself I'm going to give you 2 things. One of them would be, what would I have done differently? But then the second thing is, what was I on point about when I first started? Oftentimes, most people would just say like, all the things I got wrong, this is what I would do differently. Most people don't even tell you like, man, this is what I did right. And I would tell myself to go even further on it. Take it to the higher degree. So first thing, what I would do differently, I would tell myself that, Christian, just because you close a deal does not mean it's the end. Use this as momentum to keep your foot on the gas.
It's good, man. Real estate agent, are you listening to him?
I would close a great deal. I'm like, and I'll be like, for 2 days, I'm like, and it's like, oh, snap, I got to create more momentum, versus I'm in that high state anyway. After you close something, oh man, everybody feels that. You're in a high state. Use that as momentum, as a trigger, not to slow down, but to even go higher, because there's you'll probably do more actions and get more results in that state than you were after you let it settle and then you got to pick it back up.
Good, man.
That high feeling is actually propeller.
So
like, I would tell myself, Christian, use the high as a propeller. I'm gonna tell you this right now. I like use it as a propeller. Like now I use it. Like I close, I'm like, yes, okay, amazing, yes. Now I can make 10 calls in this state. Oh, and I immediately go into it. I can make 10 more calls in that state because I'm now using it as a propeller. That's what I tell myself in the beginning. I'd be like, look, Christian, use that as a propeller rather than a signal to slow down and celebrate. So second thing is actually what I would tell myself I'd done a great job on. But I would tell myself to even go more into it. And it would actually be cutting off other voices and really dialing into what you say about you. Christian, you did a great job on that. I would tell you to go even more, because I started my business as a peak performance coach, and I had a lot of family members who, didn't believe I could do coaching and didn't believe I could work with these high level leaders. And I cut everybody off. I was like, no, I'm going it because this is my vision. I want to be ruthless, but I was still loving. Like, I'm not saying like, curse them out. Right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like, hey, look, I'm going to disappoint you because I'm going in this direction because I'm in control of my life. No one else is. I'm in the driver's seat. So I would actually tell myself, Christian, you did a great job. Now there was a higher level for you to do that as well, even more. Because I know at that time, if I would have started it and I would have gone even more into it, man, would I have created like the stuff I'm doing now, I probably would have did back then if I told myself to go even more into it on that. So I did a great job on that. I could have taken that to another level, if that makes sense.
It's good, man. Really good. Really good. If you had to recommend one single book that has had the biggest impact on you, what would you recommend?
All right, that's a hard one. But since we're in the influencing industry, Influenced by Dr. Robert Cialdini. It's a hard textbook. I'm gonna tell you, it feels like a textbook. The reason why I say it's a textbook, even though it's a book, even on Audible, I think it's like 16, 17 hours long.
Oh my gosh.
It's crazy. I listen to that 3 times speed. But he has so many studies and studies and studies on the 7 triggers of influence. I usually read about 50 to 100 books a year, but there are rarely any books I read multiple times in a year. I read his book 4 times in 6 months.
Wow.
I'm talking about the 17 hours, like the full on, like 4 times in 6 months. It was that good. And if there's one skill that if anyone were to master, were to change anything in their life, it's the skill of influence. I've seen it too many times. The skill of influence. The skill of influence.
It's good, man. Wow. You shared a ton of gold today. I'm super grateful. Any last minute thoughts? What's the best way, if someone's watching this and like, man, I need some peak performance, what's the best way for people to connect with you and what you're doing over at the Greatness Institute?
Yes. If you want some peak performance coaching, me and my team of coaches, I have 2 other coaches on my team. We'd love to work with high level leaders and also people who want to actually go up to their next level. And so if you want to connect, go to christianpsantiago.com/peak. christianpsantiago.com/peak.
Awesome. And I'll link
that. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well.
There you go.
I'm kind of putting more stuff on LinkedIn. That's where I'm at.
Okay. Awesome, man. Well, brother, I'm super grateful for you. Super grateful for your time. I'm going to go buy that book, I think, and I'm going to work on my state. I'm going to work on my systems. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And guys, one more thing I'll say. You want to reach your next level? Stop negotiating with yourself. Just accept it and step into it.
It's good, bro.
All right, you guys. Well, I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with Christian Santiago regarding your mental state. I think it's incredibly important. Again, if we're going to continue to succeed and weather the storm that we find ourselves in, I think owning and controlling our mental state is going to be absolutely critical. If you're an agent who's local to Central Oklahoma and you're looking or considering joining a team and you're interested in phone verified hot leads, consistent coaching and training, and full transaction coordination, there's a link for you below this video where you can book a call with my team to learn more, ask questions. If you're an agent not in Central Oklahoma, but you're interested in partnering with me, you want to get compensated more for doing what you're already doing, maybe you want access to free world-class social media training, there's also a link for you below this video. As always, thanks so much for checking it out and supporting my channel.